So we go from interphase where we go to the G1 phase where the DNA it starts to grow and repair itself. There's also a checkpoint at G1 phase at the end where it checks to see if the cell has enough supply for it to divide and if it needs to. And then we go to this S phase where the DNA starts to replicate. So it's represented by these gloved fingers, which is the DNA replicating. So now there's 4, which diploid, which is 2n equals 4. And then we go to the G2 phase where the cell continues to grow and repair itself. And there's also another checkpoint here where it checks to make sure the DNA is correctly coded, replicated. And it also gets ready for mitosis. And once we go to mitosis, we enter the prophase where there is a checkpoint to make sure at the end of prophase where make sure the spindle fibers, which will be represented by my fingers, to make sure it's attached correctly to the chromosomes. So in prophase, the nuclear envelope, which are these, it breaks down, and then the centromeres goes to the outside on the opposite poles, which is metaphase, so ignore that. And the chromosome condenses like this, condenses, which would be like this. And then once you go to metaphase, the chromosome starts to line up along the metaphase plate. And the poles, which I said are on now of the centrosomes, are now on opposite sides of each other. And the spindle fiber, with my fingers, starts to slowly go around the chromosomes. And now we get to anaphase, where the spindle fibers attached to the DNA, and it starts to pull on it and goes out. And then once we get to the telophase, there are cleavage for it starts to form where it like cuts off the cell, pinches it, and then cytokinesis breaks the cell apart. But one thing we can't forget is that throughout the cell cycle, there are cyclin and CDK's levels where it rises and decreases. So the cell knows when to move on, which is the go ahead signal. So through the G1, the cyclin levels, it increases to let the G1 move on to the S phase, and it decreases while it's in there, and once it's ready to move on, it increases. Like the G2 phase where the CDKs and cyclin levels increases so the mitosis can happen.